fairy tale I started the lecture with could have been the real history of the puzzle ring, but it could have been just stories that merchants told, people that were buying the rings to increase sales, because there is no recorded history on the puzzle ring. I mean, you can find bits and pieces of information here and there, but basically academic research papers and books on subjects do not exist. I contacted jewelry historian Mrs. Diane Scarnes-Brick. She wrote several books. Jewelry collector Mr. Benjamin Zucker. Several libraries, the V&A Library, Goldsmith Library, the Boston Library. None of them have any information about the origin of the puzzle ring. Some people say that the ring originated in China many, many years ago. Some people say that it came from Arab countries, and some people say that this is like Europe. The Jumel ring dates as early as the 13th century and became very fashionable in the 16th and 17th century. Basically, it's a ring that is combined of two bands, one for the woman, one for the man. And when a couple planned on getting when the couple decided to be together to get engaged, the two rings were made. One ring the man took, one ring for the woman, and on the wedding night, the two bands were united to create one ring, and the ring was given to the wife. And it could be like very, very simple design, like the one on the left, like two plain bands with a hidden inscriptions inside the ring, or it can be a very, very decorative ring, like the ring on the right that is from the collection of the Victoria and Albert Museum, and it has rubies, emeralds, sapphires. And another version of this ring is called the Fede Jumel ring. It is basically the same design as the Jumel ring, but it has the two hands on the ring itself. The design of the two rings is something that dates back to the Roman Empire, and the Jumel with the Jumel Fede is basically a Jumel ring with two hands on it. I found this little poem by Robert Herrick from 1648 about the puzzle ring. I tried to read it because it's like Old English. Thou send'st to me true love not, but I return the ring of Jumals to imply thy love had one note, not mine's a triple tie. And there is another version of the Jumel ring that has three bands on the ring. And the story is that it was one band for the man, one band for the woman, and one band for like a close friend that was supposed to take care of the couple until the wedding day. And on the wedding day, the three bands were united, and one ring for the woman to wear. The ring that started from two entwined bands together in various ways evolved, and the number of bands increased. And at some point, the knots that were on the lower side of the ring moved to the top side of the ring underneath the decorations. And then the decorations were gone and only the knots were left. And I think this is the point where the puzzle ring was born. And I was looking for all kinds of information about other ways to explain the origin of the puzzle ring, like ancestors in different continents and stuff, but the only thing I could find were images of already puzzle rings from the late 19th century. Some of the images are from the museum website, and some of them from auction houses, but I couldn't find any other information to explain the development of the puzzle ring. In the late 19th century, an American patent was written on the puzzle ring as we know today, the configuration of the 4 bands that we know. But at the same time, about the same time, the ring was sold in France under a different name. And it appears as if this configuration could be found all over the world at about the same time. So I do not believe that the person that got the patent on the ring was the actual designer of the ring. I believe that it was somebody else, but they couldn't actually find who the real designer is. So for now, the designer, Mr.
James
Davidson, is the owner of the patent on the puzzle ring. In 1940, Jose Grant, a pilot from World War II, arrived at Turkey at one of the markets, and he found a puzzle ring, and he bought the ring, and he took it with him to the US, and in 1950 he started manufacturing the ring. He had versions from 4 to 16 bands, as far as I know, he was the first and the most famous puzzle ring manufacturer, at least in the United States. It seems that this design, the ring, the puzzle ring, has, like many people are trying to, many people create designs of puzzle rings that are similar to the traditional Turkish puzzle ring. We have a puzzle ring maker made these designs, but he writes on his website that his designs are totally different from the original Turkish puzzle rings. These rings were made by Bram Cohen. We have this ring by Karl Hoff that won the honorable mention in IPP 36. And I found this design from a company called Oflium that creates like a version of the Turkish puzzle ring. And today,
designed by Oscar van Deventer, by the way.
That was designed by Oscar van. This one?
Yeah.
Wow. This design that was designed by Oscar. And today I found out that Dmitry Pivnitsky also designs puzzle rings that look a little bit similar to the puzzle ring, to the Turkish puzzle ring. So these are all rings until now that look like the Turkish puzzle ring. I mean, they have like different configurations and stuff, but the look itself is a little bit like the Turkish puzzle ring. But there are different puzzle rings out there, like these rings, or these twisty rings that Vesa Timonen designed, or these rings that I found from a small studio in Japan, or these rings that are mine. So designing puzzles is like a really, really difficult task, but designing a tiny puzzle with a huge hole in the center, a puzzle that should fit your finger, that should not fall apart, this is my kind of challenge that I really, really enjoy. My first puzzle rings were presented at my final project in my BFA studies in the Tzavela Academy of Art. I made 5 rings, 1 of 2 pieces, 3 of 4 pieces, and another one of 6 pieces. During my presentation, one of the teachers was trying to insmart us, and he was like, "Really? Like a 2-parts puzzle? It's not a puzzle." So I gave him the puzzle, and after some time I had to take it back and solve it for him. And to tell you the truth, the design wasn't that complicated, but he was no puzzler. And my first designs were crafted by hand with traditional metal-smithing techniques like filing and sewing and wax carving. But later on I was introduced to 3D design and printing, and all my designs became much more exact and much more elaborated. I don't know how to say, it's not the right phrase. More complicated, and I really enjoy creating them. I make about 1 or 2 designs each year. I'm doing either one of a kind, basically it's 2 of a kind of each design. Sometimes I do a little bit more of each design. The most copies I have of one ring is 20, and this is like the most copies I made of any ring. And a lot of time people ask me, where do I get the inspiration for my rings? So I will show you some images. This is my version of the Turkish tassel ring. Like on the center you can see the ring that I designed, and on the left side you can see the inspiration for the ring. We have this tassel ring.
Can you explain how the cube became a ring?
I used the mechanism of the cube, instead of, this is a 2x2 Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
I used the mechanism, I copied the mechanism inside the Rubik's Cube, designed it again in a small size, designed the parts that will look like a ring, and created a ring that is a Rubik's Cube.